are honored by 4 expert panelists, including Claire Asfeld, Assistant Director, Undergraduate Admissions at Augsburg University. We also have Claire Noel Glasser, President, Pacific Northwest Association for College Admission Counseling. Garth Robertson, Independent Education Consultant, GR College Consulting. And last but not least, Chad Terry, School Counselor, Rosemont High School. On behalf of the Navigate 2020 event sponsors, Go to College Fairs, I'd like to send a warm welcome to all of our panelists. Thank you all so much for taking the time to present today. And we can now begin whenever you're ready. So I believe we're going to go ahead and have a presentation ready to go.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Alex. And welcome everyone to our presentation. Again, my name is Katie Asfeld, and I'm the Assistant Director of Undergraduate Admission at Augsburg University, located in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We're so glad that you all took the time out of your day to join us and learn more about navigating college applications during the time of coronavirus. We know that many of you have been impacted by this global pandemic in a variety of ways, so we want you to know that we are all in this together. Now, more than ever, we are here to support you as you navigate this process. So here are the key points you'll take away from our presentation today. How colleges are working to navigate the COVID-19 outbreak, how to explore who you are and take care of yourself as part of college readiness amidst a virtual school and social distancing reality, advice and virtual tools for building a well-informed college list, understanding how holistic college admission works, things you can do right now as you prepare to apply to college this fall or in the coming years, and finally, we'll end with some time for questions and answers. To kick things off, I want to share a few things from a university perspective. While we are living in an uncertain time, colleges and universities across the country are doing a number of things to ensure the safety of their students. We may not know if we'll be able to open for classes in the fall, but one thing we do know is that our university leadership are in regular conversation with public health officials and medical professionals, and we're listening to them for guidance on how to move forward safely. We're keeping our students' health, safety, and well-being at the forefront of every decision we're making. An example of this at my institution would be a recent change that Augsburg's registrar's office made to our credit transfer policy. So at Augsburg, we have a specific requirements regarding how college level classes can transfer. And we usually require a C- or higher for that course to transfer in. But we know that many students who are taking courses at community colleges are now being given the option of finishing their semester with a pass or a no credit grade. So our registrar's office recently passed a policy that will give us more flexibility when it comes to transferring in coursework completed, especially during spring 2020. So we're doing everything we can to be as generous and understanding given the current global pandemic. You know, at the end of the day, college admission counselors are rooting for you. We're not the enemy. And in many cases, we're looking for opportunities to admit you versus reasons to deny you. So as you're going through the application process, don't be afraid to be honest. If you're having a tough time with distance learning right now, if you're not going to finish your semester with a letter grade, or if there are other barriers in your life that you're experiencing, tell us about it. Be transparent with us in the process because the university will understand.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chad Terry. I'm one of the school counselors at Rosemont High School. It's a large public high school that's about 20 minutes south of Minneapolis and St. Paul. So happy to be here with all of you today. As we're thinking about this presentation and really preparing for the navigation of your search, no matter what the circumstance is, I believe in the research, plan, apply, then decide model. This process can feel so huge. With over 4,000 colleges and universities in the nation, if we're going to try to make this feel a little more manageable, think generally first. Start thinking, I'll use available resources to compile some research. Then I'll begin to plan where I could see myself. After that, I'll decide how many applications to submit. And then when I get back all that useful and helpful information from the schools, I'll make a decision by May 1st, which is generally the application decision deadline. This year it's a little more flexible. A lot of schools are moving to June 1st or even beyond that because of the circumstances that are going on. Asking yourself these important questions can help you make decisions about your major and college options. Questions like, who am I? And what is important to you? Might seem very simple, but you'd be surprised how many high school kids haven't really thought about these answers. So what do the research and the planning parts of the model that was just introduced look like? You can start having conversations with your family, with trusted adults and friends to help you. Some of you don't know exactly what your parents do for work. Start asking them more in-depth questions about how they got to where they are today and what sorts of twists and turns have they taken along the way. If your neighbor's a teacher and you think that you might be interested in that profession, talk to them, socially distanced, of course, and your teachers at school. The stories of other people's lives can help you understand the story that you're starting. Don't take this too far, of course, by doing just exactly what someone else did without making your own choices, or just following a boyfriend or a girlfriend to their next step. That usually doesn't work. A good way to start the process after you've thought and talked to some different people is to take an inventory. There's personality inventories, career inventories, college interest inventories. Your school might give you access to a strengths finder, a career interest inventory, or a personality test to give you some thoughtful results that might help you. At minimum, give you a good idea about groupings of careers. An example is if that you learn your inventories are leading you to more helping types of careers, your research leads you more to nursing, social work, or counseling. If your school doesn't give you access to free inventories, it's helpful to check out the National Association for College Admission Counseling's step-by-step guide to counseling, 16personalities.com, or the College Navigator. Maybe some of you are involved in an AVID program where this will be a part of your high school curriculum, or another similar program too. Consider your experience in courses and your future class selection. If you're thinking about becoming an engineer and you haven't taken or don't plan to take high-level math classes in physics, you might want to rethink some things. Consider your academic strengths when you're making choices about majors and college. And if you haven't registered yet for classes for next year, consider taking a class that might help you dip your feet into something you never thought you might like, but it could be the best thing for you. Let's say you have a possible interest in business. Taking accounting, if it's available at your school, can be an excellent way to see if a foundational course in that major might make sense for you. State published documents can also assist you. Many times I'll share one of our state published brochures that lists all of the colleges on one side and all of the majors on the other side. You can pair up which schools offer what major. It can be incredibly helpful for you to see just what majors are out there and what colleges might line up with your interests. In Minnesota, that free resource is called the Guide to Your 37 Colleges and Universities. My guess is that most of your home states will have a similar publication. There are always things that make you unique. How have you grown as a person in high school? You may not realize all the things you've done and all the ways you've changed. Right now is the perfect time to start thinking about it. As you reflect on yourself your life, and who you are, whatever you discover, the university is going to understand. Another important part to think about on the next slide is realizing your strengths. What's your wow? When people ask you what makes you special or what makes you stand out, consider what might make someone reading your materials say, wow, that's impressive. Don't be humble with this. It's okay to brag a little bit in this process. Building a resume can help you generate those ideas. Also, starting your essay and its related writing process forces you to document your assets and organize the random thoughts that might be going on in your mind. Don't discount things like your babysitting jobs or volunteer work or the times that you've taken responsibility for your siblings in your home. Colleges are realizing these commitments make a difference, and for some people, they're a necessity. Ask yourself too, what activities have you done, and how do they connect to your interests and strengths? Learning how you dug out of your challenges can help you discover your greatest strengths. Resilience, grit, and perseverance come up often in the college application process. Reflecting on the times when you didn't think something would work out, but you got through it and you learned from it, it can be some of the greatest strengths. And it helps you learn that you can face obstacles that come up in your life. Use all of this to truly think, practice, and understand yourself and your priorities in the college process. Your strengths, as unique and varying as they might be, will be seen, heard, and valued by our colleges and universities. Speaking of priorities, now we're going to dive into a practical suggestion for how to start to move into the apply and the deciding section of the model I discussed at the beginning of my time. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Claire.
Hi, everyone. My name is Claire Nold-Glasser, and I'm an independent college counselor. My office, when I'm not at my dining room table like I am right now, is in Bellevue, Washington, which is very near Seattle. So one of the fun parts of the college process is working on your college list. As you get started and continue to work on your college research, you're likely to become much clearer about your preferences and priorities and what's really important to you. Developing a college list can be a place to start or give you ideas about other schools you may want to add to your list if you've already been working on one. Some high schools have programs like those listed here that students can access to help them identify colleges that could be possible options. I'm going to show you a free site that everyone can access. It's brought to us by the College Navigator, and I'm going to switch to that screen right now. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see the College Navigator. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see various criteria that you can click that's going to help you develop that list. One of the features that I also found recently on this website is down here at the bottom. If you're not sure how to use this tool, you can click Guide Me, and it walks you step by step. But I'm going to show you how it works. So first of all, I'm going to click on a map, and I'm in the Pacific Northwest, and I like the West, but I also hear there's some fascinating places to go to school in Minnesota as well. So you can see that you can click a whole region, or you can also click on individual states. Then I'm going to look at browse for programs. So one of the things that I've thought about studying is nursing. And when I click on nursing, I get a whole bunch of different options. I'm going to go with kind of the basic nursing, which is being registered nurse. And I also think that psychology might be interesting to study. I'm not going to click on the whole category of psychology, though, because some of these areas of study I'm not able to access until graduate school. So I'm going to go with psychology general. And I'm going to ask that my list only find schools that offers both of those majors. So I'm going to close out of there. Because I'm going for my first undergraduate degree called a bachelor's degree, I'm going to click that box. And when I look at institution type, see how I hovered over the question mark there, so it gives me some definitions. I'm going to select public, private, nonprofit, and 4-year. Then I'm going to click on more search options. I am going to skip the tuition and fees for now because I need to use the FAFSA forecaster and check out the net price calculators on my college websites to help me get some idea about what my family's expected contribution to my education will be. For enrollment, I'm going to click 1,000 to 10,000 students. And I would like there to be on-campus housing, at least for my first year. For the campus setting, I'm not too picky, but I'm not a super fan of really big cities. So I'm going to select rural, town, and suburban. For the percent of applicants admitted, I'm going to look at schools that admit at least half of the students who apply to 90%. I'm going to give myself kind of a wide band there. I'm not going to put in score ranges, sports, or religious preference at this time, but those are certainly variables that you can put in as well. Now I'm going to click show results and we'll see if I got anything. Wow, so look at that. I got 21 different schools. If I went back into browse for programs and unclicked that I wanted schools that had both nursing and psychology, this list would grow exponentially. So looking at the schools on this list, I'm going to look at the College of St. Benedict because it's in Minnesota, and I've heard there's really nice people in Minnesota. So you can see that there's a lot of really good information here, and I'm just going to highlight a couple of these areas so you can see. When you click on general information, you see a variety of links to helpful sites that you can explore. One of the things I like on here is the one that says mission statement, because that gives me an idea about what the college values for their students and the institution. The next one that I want to show you is net price, and this gives you information about the actual price students paid broken out by family income band. This is a good way to see that the initial quoted cost of attendance price isn't actually what people are paying to attend a school as based on their family's financial situation. The next one that I want to show you is admissions, and this can give us great information. So we're looking at students who graduated from high school in the spring of 2018. At this particular school, 83% of the students who applied for admission were offered a spot. So that's great. And then as I scroll down, I can see information about ACT and SAT test score ranges, so I can see if I'm in that zone or not quite yet. The next section that I want to quickly show you is the area about retention and graduation rates. So the retention rate measures the number of students, the percentage of students who choose to continue their education at that school. They're going to come back for their second year. And then as we scroll down a little bit further, we see information about the 4-year graduation rate. This number is really important, especially when you're thinking about paying for college. The national average 4-year graduation rate is somewhere around 50%. So this particular college is doing very well in that particular area. The next piece that I want to show you relates to the programs and majors. So when we look at this, you can see that this school is 100% undergraduate students. The data that we're looking at here tells us about the number of degrees this particular college awarded in certain areas in the spring of 2019. So as you scroll down, you get to see what are areas of study that you could explore at the school, as well as it highlights what I said I was interested in: registered nursing and psychology. So there's a lot of really good information here, and the College Navigator is a great resource to help you get started. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and we'll go back to the PowerPoint. So once you have some colleges on your list, it's time to explore. I tell students that my goal is to help turn them into research nerds. It's fun to see what different schools have to offer. Looking at academics is a good place to start, as that's why you're going to college. Looking at department websites can give you an idea about what a particular program is like at that school. You can usually find a link to the department page that tells about what kind of research the professors and students are involved with. That's one way to differentiate schools. Sometimes departments will have a suggested course of study, so you can see a plan laid out related to the courses you need to take that particular degree. Department website web pages sometimes list what their graduates are doing, or you can look that information up on the school's career center as well. Campus life should be the next part of your research. After classes and studying, what would you like to do? You can usually find a list of clubs and activities, and checking out the housing options is fun too. Search for the college's student-produced newspaper, a good place to find out about issues and activities on campus. One thing that I really want you to know and remember is that you can have a really great college experience at multiple schools. You don't need to feel like you're looking for the one perfect school or the needle in the haystack. Due to COVID-19, colleges have really done a good job developing virtual tours, virtual information sessions, and some even have virtual student panels. I'm going to now turn this presentation back to Katie, who would be giving us more perspective on this.
Thank you, Claire. This is Katie again from Augsburg University. So after you've made your list of colleges, write some questions down and contact your admission counselor. We are still here to answer your questions, though most of us are also working from home. And it is literally our job to make sure you have all of the information that you need about our institution and the admission process. We want to connect with you, and we have a variety of ways to do so. So as Claire mentioned, most colleges and universities are closed for visits now due to COVID-19, but many of them are offering virtual campus visits with an admission counselor, with a student, virtual tours, virtual panels, open houses, events, and much more. I think connecting with your admission counselor and touring the campus virtually for now and chatting with current students is one of the best ways to get a sense of that college's community. I know right now, since our student tour guides aren't giving tours, they've been posting a lot of content on social media, and I think that's another really fantastic way to get a sense of our university's culture. It's pretty easy to find these visit options on university websites. So if I were to use Augsburg as an example, and if I were to go to augsburg.edu and in the search button, search for visit, this would be the first page that pops up. So a lot of colleges and universities make this information very accessible to you because they want you to connect with them. So they're going to have this front and center. So a couple of options you'll see that we're offering at Augsburg would be virtual campus visits. You can click on these buttons to schedule a day and time that works well for you. And then we're also offering, we have a virtual campus tour, so you can kind of get a sense of what our campus looks like and feels like. even though you can't physically be on our campus right now. So like I said, many institutions offer some sort of virtual tour or virtual visits, and they have a way to connect with you right now, even though most campuses aren't open. And I would definitely encourage you to do that. I think even though you can't physically be on those campuses right now, there's still plenty of ways that you can explore, learn more about that institution, and connect with your admission counselor or current students. All right, and now I'm gonna pass it on to Garth.
Hi, Garth Robertson again, independent counselor from Minneapolis. You've done a lot of research, you've learned a lot about yourself, you've got some colleges you're looking at. I think one of the biggest questions that is on everyone's mind then is, now what? What do I do now? So I want to give you a bunch of very practical tips related to things you can do right now. Even given the COVID-19 situation, there's a lot of practical things that you can do to prepare for university admission. But to understand that, you have to understand how university admission works in the first place. So I want to give a quick breakdown of what that does look like. You'll see in this slide, there's 3 bullet pointed pieces here. One is academic preparation, second is extracurricular engagement, and the third is you and your story. These are 3 central pieces of what's often called holistic admission. Traditional admission is what a lot of people think about, and that's kind of your simple, it's the academic preparation piece of this. They are looking at your courses. Are you challenging yourself reasonably? Are you doing well in those? Are you taking courses that align with your interests? And how well are you doing in these classes? That combined with testing has kind of been what most people think of when they think of admissions. However, when you're looking at university admissions, a great many number of institutions are practicing what is called holistic admissions, which basically, it takes this academic preparation, but it adds to it other elements, which essentially are telling the story of who you are and your choices and how you're spending your time. And it's really important to not underestimate these aspects of them. In fact, they can be just as important, if not more important in many cases, depending on your circumstances. The academic preparation portion is relatively straightforward, and most people have a good sense for that. We do want to highlight briefly that given COVID-19 and the test cancellations that we have experienced, and there's kind of question marks for the future of this, many universities are no longer requiring the SAT or the ACT, and there's a wonderful organization called fairtest.org that actually has lists of the schools that it's continually updated on a basically daily basis. So if testing is an obstacle for you in some way, you can check and see if your school's on this list. And again, remember the message we've been giving, the university will understand. So be honest and open with your circumstances in these types of situations. Beyond academic preparation, extracurricular engagement that's like a cliche phrase that people throw out a lot. But what it really means is just, what do you do with your time? How do you spend your time when you're not doing the school things, the class things, tests, that sort of thing? And everything counts, and this is really important to highlight. How do you spend your time? Chad mentioned before, do you have a younger sibling where you are the primary caregiver when your parents are away at work? Are you involved in a student organization at school? Do you play a sport? Do you have a hobby that's kind of weird and nobody really understands, but you do it to a really high level and you really take pride in the work you've done? These are all things that are what I would call meaningful, goal-oriented pursuits. They're uses of time that matter to you. And if they matter to you, they absolutely matter to schools. Schools are really invested in getting to know you. So make sure you are taking account of the things you're doing, being intentional in your time, and filling it with things that matter to you. The third piece of this is the most abstract one. I'm calling it you and your story, which is pretty abstract. But this again goes back to some of the things that Chad was discussing before. Who are you? What's your background? Where are you from? What's your story? Have you moved different places? Do you identify with different cultural groups? And like, what does that mean for you personally? These types of explorations really, really matter. Universities are wonderful places for exploration, and one of the best ways that we learn is from our peers. When our peers bring different perspectives, it makes the educational environment better. What is your perspective? Every single human on this earth has a unique experience and a unique perspective. Exploring that, delving into who you are, what matters to you, what are your interests, what are your goals, how have these emerged in your life is a really, really wonderful practice and very, very important for admissions. Jumping to the next slide, we can give you a handful of I literally call this a to-do list for now. Things that you can do that are assisting in this process. The first one is actually within the context of recommendations. There are a good number of schools that do require recommendations, and the two central types of recommendation letters come from your school counselor, like Chad, or from your teachers. Typically, colleges like to see teacher recommendations come from more recent instructors, so usually junior year teachers, a very, very good option. Also typically core subject courses, which is your world languages, your English class, math, natural physical sciences like chemistry or biology, as well as social sciences like a history class. So these people, their job is to show who you are and their experience with you. And they're better at that when they know you better. So one of the things I would advise you, even in a virtual school type of setting, is to send an email to teachers who you think do know you, or you'd like to get to know them a little better, your counselor. Ask some of the questions that are on your mind. There are no bad questions. Ask about their journey, ask about their story, see what you can learn from that. It's a journey process, and the more that you can gain advice from others, the better. And if these people get to know you better, they will be able to write stronger recommendation letters for you. The second piece, Chad actually also mentioned this before, but building a resume for yourself. I know when I say that, or when I heard that when I was in high school, that was intimidating, and I don't know what that means, and what am I doing with this? But resume is just fancy talk for a list of things you do. And honestly, you're not actually submitting a resume for college, so it doesn't even need to be a fancy resume. You basically just want to have some kind of a document where you are mapping out how you have spent your time and how that has mattered to you. This will be very, very useful for when you're actually filling in application forms, because applications ask for these same types of things. And as Chad also mentioned, these can be wonderful brainstorming tools for developing your own essay ideas. A simple way to start this, my suggestion is just to go into Google, type in high school student resume. There's going to be a ton of options. Pick one you think is cute, however you're defining cute, or some different adjective that's more appropriate for you, and mess with it. Put your information into it. Pretty straightforward. Jumping from there, essays. Not all schools require essays, but many of them do ask for them. And I actually would tell you an essay is a wonderful opportunity to tell your story. It's easier to do this if you start earlier. And I think the process of writing a good essay is more about the reflection that goes into it. So starting early on, what are my stories in recent years that have been important to me and have been defining in some way? And even just to simplify that, what are the things that you've done that matter to you? Because if it matters to you, it's going to matter to the school. The fourth thing is literally making the application accounts and starting to work on them. It's much less stressful to have a good sense for what is on Common Application, for instance, if you have a good sense by doing that earlier. Most application platforms are available. Not necessarily most, many are available now, and you can start navigating them and playing with them and filling them in, saving you time and effort and stress later on. Claire mentioned in her demonstration, FAFSA, the FAFSA forecaster, as well as net price calculators. One of the biggest challenges, obviously, for college is cost. This is a gigantic problem that we are not going to get into right now. However, sticker price does not indicate how much you pay. And that's really important to understand. And so then the question is, how much do you pay? Net price calculators are a wonderful tool. Again, you can just Google search net price calculator plus the name of your school, and it will provide that tool for you. It's basically a kind of simplified version of taxes. So you probably need parent support a little bit, but sitting down together and moving through that, you can get a very good estimate for what you should expect college to cost for specific institutions. The sixth thing is to plan and then have an active summer. Again, a challenging thing to do given the realities of our social distancing. Hopefully things will change a bit in the future, but I actually am telling people now to be intentional about planning even if they can't be. You can have a very engaging summer even without in-person opportunities. We'll talk about this a little more in one of the FAQs, but if there was a job or a volunteer position that you did have interest in, that's something where I would encourage you to reach out to them and say, is there a possibility for making this virtual? I'd also think about these different activities that you've pursued, family responsibilities and these types of things. Are there being intentional about them, setting structure and pursuing connecting goals to these types of things? They're very, very meaningful potential pursuits, and you definitely are in a position where you can organize a strong summer for yourself. Again, anything that's meaningful to you, has a goal attached to it, empowers yourself or empowers others, is going to be a good use of time. And then finally, taking care of yourself. This is a tough situation for everybody. I always think I've got these 4 points on the slide. Having a sense of purpose, and this is kind of the, the construction of goals and how am I pursuing these. I think that this is something that really matters. And so actually these steps in the to-do list are a piece of the mental health portion here. Social engagement, being intentional about social time, like Zoom meetings like this. Maybe not your ideal social time. Exercise, making sure that you are staying active, being intentional about that, and then making a routine. I think when things get virtual and our kind of structures of how we live kind of go away a little bit, it's really important to try and create that for yourself, and it helps with that pursuit of purpose as well. So with that, we'll flip into the FAQs.
All right, folks, thank you so much for being here with us today. We know you could be doing a lot of different things, but we really appreciate your attention and your time. We're gonna gear into the FAQs, the frequently asked questions. So the four of us have sort of determined questions we think would be the most helpful, or questions that really relate to this idea of navigating your application process. We're gonna try to hit a lot of the questions we think you might have. So we'll start going here. If you could just wait with your questions in the Q&A till the end of this, that would be helpful. And then we'll be able to hit a lot of this big information, and we'll get to you at the end if you have additional questions after that. So with the first question, we're going to pass it over to Claire. The question, how many applications should I submit?
So my short answer to that question is I tell my students I don't really want them to submit more than 10 applications. What's really important is that students think about, why am I applying to this school? Am I applying because it offers me, it hits a lot of marks for me, or that I think the name of the school is fabulous? You really need to think about why you are applying. The other thing quickly that I want to say is, in the fall of your senior year, it's highly likely that you may get emails from colleges that you've never heard of before, enticing you to apply to their school using usually a free application. And you want to be really careful. I know sometimes students will say, well, it was free. I thought I'd apply and see what happens. And then that can be disastrous because you ultimately have to make a choice. So be thoughtful and careful, and really try to limit yourself to no more than 10. 5 is terrific. 4 is wonderful. Be wise.
Thank you, Claire. Our next question is going to head right to Katie. What's the best way to reach out to admission counselor at colleges that you're wanting to learn more about or apply to? And will they talk to me? Katie, will you talk to them?
Yes, we will absolutely talk to you, and we want to talk to you. Right now, most of us are working from home, but we are still available. For me, that's Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. You can email me, you can call me. I really enjoy email because then we can sort of connect initially, and you can maybe lay out some things you're curious about. And then we can schedule a follow-up Zoom meeting or a phone call to talk more in depth. But this is a fantastic way for me to get to know more about you, and for you to get your questions answered and to learn more about our institution. For example, if you tell me you're interested in business, then I can come, prepared to our Zoom meeting to talk more about our business program, and perhaps connect you with a current student who's a business major or one of our business professors, so you can really learn everything you need to know about that program.
Question number 3. My school is eliminating grades for this term, which is coming up a lot, we know, in schools across the country. How will that affect my admissions process? I think Katie and Claire are going to tag team this question.
Yeah, I know that is a really tough one. So I was going to simply respond from a college and university standpoint relating to that admissibility. So colleges will completely understand that your spring 2020 grades might look a bit differently than they did in the past. We know that you're facing challenges that you hadn't before, but I can assure you that we are going to be understanding. But again, be honest, be transparent with us, tell us what's going on if you are having difficulties. but universities will understand.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add on that most college applications have an additional information section, and that will be a place where you can explain how your high school issued grades during this particular time. I think that this will also be a part of what high school counselors include in their letters of recommendation too. So you just want to make sure, just like Katie's saying, that colleges understand what the situation was for this particular semester.
All right, question number 4 is going to go to Garth. How can I have a great summer when everything's being canceled?
As I mentioned in the previous slide, there's a lot that you can do. I do realize that it is challenging. The first thing to think about is if you actually already had a plan. If there was a plan in place that you were going to pursue, and then it got canceled, we can't do this in person, I would encourage you to reach out to a contact person at that place and propose a virtual version of that. You can ask, but if you actually have some, like I actually think I could do valuable contributions to this volunteer organization or even in this type of job situation, and I actually have a proposal that I think could be meaningful, that actually gives you a better chance of creating something like that. The reality of this situation is that everybody, the employers, like a nonprofit organization, they're all struggling, and there's big question marks everywhere. And if you can actually proactively give them a proposal for something that makes sense to you, it probably will make sense to them, and you very easily could create something, a variation of what you had before. The second thing that I would suggest is volunteering, but again, volunteering virtually potentially. There's a wonderful website, it's called idealist.org, and it's basically a hub for nonprofit organizations online. And of all the places that really need support right now, nonprofits would come up high on the list if they can have free labor, whether it's you're posting on social media, you're doing advertising for some of their campaigns, you're calling people to encourage people to come out to an event or donate items for a food shelf. You could really really valuable support that's going to be a good use of your time, but is going to be empowering for others. The third thing that I kind of have a category of recommendations, I call personal projects, which is a kind of generic catch-all, but it's what are things that you love? Think of some things that you love. And then if I could attach some goals to those, what could those look like? And then let me make a plan of working towards them. Just a couple generic examples. I really like playing League of Legends. And instead of just playing, maybe I'm gonna record my sessions. Maybe I'm gonna mess with video editing apps. Maybe I'll create my own YouTube channel for these. I'm sure anybody out there is playing these things, you know that there's a ton of these. You can do your own creative process where you're actually building something and designing something that's connected to something you love. Same thing, music. If you like hip hop, you can play with something like GarageBand. You can make beats for yourself. You could literally create a full album. And even if you're just doing this in your room and playing around with it, this is the type of thing that colleges will find interesting, and they'll learn a lot from you about that type of thing. I do realize that these things they're all internet related, and that there's a privilege attached to that. And that's something we have to be aware of. Even without internet, though, there are things that you can do that can be meaningful. One of my favorite hobbies is basketball, and I could very easily set a goal for myself where I'm going to be intentional about my ball handling skill improvement. I'm going to do an intentional workout routine that is targeting increasing my vertical jump. Make a plan, organize that. This is a personal project that you could document and would be a very interesting type of presentation for a school. And the final thing is just skill development. The things that come to mind for me here are computer science, learning computer languages, learning foreign languages. Again, a lot of times there's technology required, but if you're on this call, technology does empower you in certain ways. Places like Coursera and edX both have a lot of free courses that you can pursue to explore a variety of interests, things like Khan Academy, and there's a lot more. So I'd really encourage you to be creative, but the starting point for all of this is, what do I really like? What would be a meaningful use of my time? And then try to create goals attached to it, and you can build a really wonderful summer.
Thank you, Garth. Question number 5, I know is on a lot of people's minds right now. The ACT and the SAT test cancellations or changes. Some of them are doing it online, some of them are not. They still want you to do it in person. It can be really, really confusing right now, and we completely understand. We do want to, I think, really have you be thinking about the idea, again, that we've been saying over and over in this presentation, that the university will understand. So whatever circumstance is kind of playing out for you and what's happening to you, we do trust and know that those relationships with the colleges and the universities are going to continue. and they're gonna hear you out and listen to what's happening. We did address ACT and SAT cancellations, but I wanted to just give the example of my school district. In April, we were supposed to have a school-wide ACT in our building. And it was right around the time that our governor called the stay-at-home order. And so, of course, that school-wide ACT was canceled. Our district has now decided that we're not doing national ACT tests housed in our building for the summer. And instead, we've decided to do and offer a free statewide test in our school on October 6th. So it's much later than we would normally have a test like that offered in our district. But we know when we're connecting with these colleges and universities that they're going to be flexible on some of their deadlines. They're going to work with us. They're going to make sure that that later than normal standardized test is not going to hurt or penalize the students that might be taking it a little bit later than normal. Do recommend that you consider and look at when the tests are being offered around your area and try to make a plan, understanding that things could truly change and there's a lot of unknowns. For those students who maybe don't have internet access or their online service is unreliable, just know that, again, the schools are going to work with you. There might be retesting options. They're going to figure out a plan that will truly work for you and make sense. The last question here, how should mental health be addressed
really
in college application?
Get to the last question. We do want to make a little bit more time for some questions from the audience. So for question 6, if we can just cut it a little short, I apologize. I just want to make sure we leave time for some additional questions at the end.
Absolutely, we'll definitely do that. Thank you. Just want to say about mental health, because it is so important right now and it's such a big thing. So many students are going through this right now. Just want to encourage you to think about that your mental health is your own and you get to make decisions around it. So if you decide to include some information about what you've experienced in your mental health story in a special circumstances section of the application or perhaps in the essay section, I would encourage you to ask these questions to yourself. Does it help the admissions committee understand you better? Does it address disruptions to the transcript or your life situation? And number 3, can you speak precisely about it in a way that depicts what you've learned about yourself and how you've grown? If you can answer those questions, highly recommend putting that info into your college applications if you feel comfortable with it. As a high school counselor, just want you to think a lot about that. And if you decide to do that, it's totally up to you. So we're ready to go into the next section.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chad. I didn't mean to rush through those last couple of questions. I just want to make sure we do leave some time for some of the audience questions.
All good.
So I'll go ahead and just throw the question out there for all members of the panelists. Anyone can feel free to answer and join in as they see fit. The first question I thought would be an excellent one and something that's popped up a lot is, are there specific things you are looking for on applications? Are some sections more important than others?
Yeah, I can speak to that question. And then if folks wanted to chime in and add anything, feel free. I would say for us, academics are very important. We want to see that you are academically prepared to be successful in college level classes. But that being said, we do practice holistic admission, like Garth talked about earlier, which means you're more than just a number to us. You're more than just a GPA or a test score. We want to know some concrete things about you, like how you spend your time, what are you involved with, what are some of your own traits and strengths. And so we really do look at each aspect of your application. So not only your transcript, but also your essays where you can share more about who you are as a person, and your letter of recommendation, like what your teacher has to say about you or your counselor. So there are a lot of different things that we look at when we look at your application. I would say academics are important, but at the same time, there are so many things that might have impacted them. So tell us about that, like Claire mentioned in that, additional information section, so we can get the best picture of who you are I think I always tell students, like, if you can, if there were, some ups and downs in your academic history, provide some context in your essay and tell us the story of your transcript.
One thing I would add to that quickly is there's a resource that's called Common Data Set. Universities publish their Common Data Set online. You can just Google search Common Data Set plus the school name. And one of the sections in there is admissions, and they actually map out 16, I think, different kind of areas of admission, and each school then fills in a checkbox of, is this most important, very important, important, or not considered? And so that can give you a framework for the priorities that different schools have, generally speaking. But I think, like we've talked about in this presentation, reaching out directly to admissions officers at exact schools, building that relationship, they're the best source you can talk to for that.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that answer, both of you. The next question I have is one that I've seen a lot come up, asking, when is the ideal time to start working on college applications to get them turned in on time? Should they be starting junior year or senior year to begin their applications?
So I can jump in right away. I run a college boot camp every summer, and it's sort of the time when a lot of our students jump into the next step of their application. It's usually held the first week of August, because it's a great time when a lot of the college applications open up across the country. Of course, the Common App, like Garth mentioned, is open and available for you to start doing some pre-work, start thinking through some of the different steps, some of the things you'll put forward. But the summer is a great time to dig in some more between your junior and senior year, really start to collect the information, think about starting some applications around the beginning of August. There's a lot of priority deadlines at colleges that land right about November 1 through kind of January 1. And so the "it depends" answer might play out a little bit with this question. Just how motivated are you? What kinds of schools are you looking at? What do each of their deadlines entail? Just encourage you to do some of that research that we talked about, and really think about kind of in some ways, the sooner you start, the less stress and anxiety in some ways you'll encounter at the beginning of your senior year, which is generally really helpful.
Thank you, Chad.
I want to pop in really quick and just mention the common application that we've been talking about that's open right now. Over 900 colleges accept that application. And when you create an account and log into it, you can actually work on the common application part. And on August 1st, the Common App kind of gets turned on for real for people who are starting their senior year. And when you relog into your account August 1st or after, they ask you if you'd like to migrate the information that you've already put in into the real application, and you say yes. So if you can get a chunk of the work done on the Common App before August 1st, then you have time to focus on the college-specific questions. You don't want to be working on any college-specific questions prior to August 1st, because sometimes those questions change, but the Common App is a great part of that application to get done.
Thank you so much for Chad and Claire for answering that question. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have today. I want to thank you, all of our panelists, for attending or for presenting in this session. You all did an excellent job, and I'm sure the audience as a whole is giving you a round of applause, if only you could hear them. At this time, I want to thank everyone once again for attending our session, Navigating College Applications. Exploring your college options in our virtual college fair. We have hundreds of interactive virtual booths where you can watch videos, download material, and even chat live with admission representatives from that institution. You also find that some booths have scheduled their own live stream video presentations, so make sure you visit that today or come back while the event is still live to enjoy those experiences. That is all the time we have today. If we did not get to your question and you do still have questions, we recommend that you reach out to your high school or college counselor, and they should be able to assist you with any pressing questions that our panel were unable to get to today. And that is all the time we had. Once again, thank you to all of my panelists, and I hope that everybody stays safe and healthy. Have a good day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.